Hey, good morning, Ben with Studio on the Lake. All right, so you click the link because you want to know what the power carving is all about. Well, power carving is basically not using a knife. You're using some type of a motorized handpiece. And this is going to be a quick down and dirty of what the basic parts are. Now, if you want to get the rest of it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot of power carving in here. You'll see a couple different hand pieces, and I'll run through the basics as best as I can. I don't know it all, but I've done this for a little while, and I can give you the right direction. So like, comment, subscribe, and hang in there for a quick down and dirty on what the various different pieces are. Now keep in mind that these are my opinions, and there are many carvers out there who have different ideas, and it has a matter of what works for you and what's comfortable. But this is just one over the world of the basics, and I'm going to give you a rough dollar amount of what it will take to get into this. So you can probably get into power carving, I would say, for less than $150, but more reasonable would be 400, somewhere in that range. All right, so here's my current workstation post-fire. It's an Oz Elite on the left. That's about $700. There's a Ram ice cube in the middle. That's $300. And then there's a wood burner on the right side. That's my old power carving station. Used to be Ultima combos, two of them that came from PJL Enterprises. He doesn't make them anymore. And I had to move up post Studio Fire, subscribe to see that. And I'm now running an Oz Elite, which will set you back about $700. So what can you get into it for cheap? For less than $100, between $50 and $60, you can start with the basic Dremel. It doesn't hurt anything. It's a little bulky in your hand. You can move up on eBay or various different sites and get something along these lines. This is a Chinese carver. I paid $80 for this. There's a review of the whole thing on the website. And this kind of has all the basic stuff. I bought this to prove a point, that is that China and Korea are making the hand pieces now. You can pay $20 or $30 for a hand piece. You can pay $300 or $400 for the same hand piece. To me, it looked like they were relatively the same, and until you get into the high dollar ones, I think personally that they are. Now, and I'll talk about these as we go through these. But this is the cheap carver. This will get you into it, and this is the standard micro power carver. It has a foot pedal. I've never used a foot pedal. I'll show you on the forums why you might want to have a foot pedal in the future. But first of all, you're going to have a controller. That's the box on the left side. It'll be reversible. This is a brushed handpiece, and it will come with the tools to change the collets in it. Typically, we run two different sizes of collets in these smaller micro motors, 1/8 inch and 3/32. So this handpiece looks exactly like every other one. I can pick this up for $30 or $40, but when I tear it apart, the quality inside and the quality control manufacturing process, some more plastic parts than there are metal parts. But primarily, they all work the same way. Once you tear one apart, and if you subscribe and go through the channel, I do tear one apart just to see what the difference is, and I've changed them out. So they come brushed and brushless. Brushless is going to cost you more, and it's going to have a thicker cable on it. The brushed ones, you run them for a year or two, and then you change the brushes out in the tail end of it. Not that big a deal. Most of them have a quick release collet nowadays in them. These were originally marketed as dental tools. They used them in dental laboratories, and then power carvers started using dental bits. They'd get a used bit from their dentist in the old days, and the dentist would be happy to give them a whole tray of them. Nowadays, with the infectious diseases and all that good sort of stuff that we didn't worry about in the old days, you will never get those things. And they're typically little diamond burrs and bits that are too small. And we'll talk about bits towards the end of this, and this won't take up much of your time, about 10 minutes. But the reason you clicked on this, obviously, is you wanted to take a look at power carving and what it's all about. So that's it. Those units are all pretty much the same. They'll have an on and off switch. They'll have a power switch or speed control on there. 30, 40, 50,000. You don't really need to get into the 50,000 range, or even the 40, to be quite honest. That has a saber-tooth burr in it, and we'll talk about burrs as we go on. But if you're wanting to get into the initial, this will certainly do the trick. You could also do that with a basic Dremel. Now here's the mid-range. This is an Ice Cube from Ram. I did buy this to replace mine, and I'm not as fond of it, but it's $300 range. Got a little bit of vibration. It is brushed, and it is my secondary carver right now. I run two of them. I run one with a 3/32 collet in it, and that's the bigger one, and then I run this one with an 1/8 inch collet in it, and you can see it says 45,000. I don't have a dyno, and I can't tell you what the range on these are, but I typically run them wide open unless I'm using a cutoff wheel. And I don't use a foot wheel or foot controller, even though most of them come with a foot controller. So here's the mid-range that you can get into, and as you start looking through them, you'll get dazed and confused. Be sure and do a lot of research if you're getting ready to buy one, because between eBay, Amazon, and a multitude of sellers, wood carving supply sellers, Rocky Mountain, those kind of people, the price will vary as much as a couple $100. So make sure you're looking in. This is the high range. This is the Oz Elite, and several companies make ones in this range, $700 to $1,500 range, and it has the same functions. Master on and off switch. It's on, but it's not doing anything. Then the one switch turns it on. It's got a knob for power. It's got a forward and reverse, and most of these hand pieces come with a forward and a reverse. And then the bottom one there is for the foot controller, which I don't use. This one happens to go to 50,000. You have to push the secret squirrel button. And the difference between $100, $300, and $700 is a world apart. And tools, you get what you pay for. This thing is smooth as glass, has no vibration in it. It is brushless, meaning it has a thicker cord, because the brushless have to have about 8 wires. So you can go with a Dremel 4000, Jordy Johnson over at Carving Fusion, and those folks like to use these. The power carvers like to use these. This is going to set you back $130 plus another, I forget what this was, $30. They put this flex extension shaft on it. The only problem is you will break these shafts if you've got a heavy hand. All right, then you can go to a Fordham and various different lines, and it's designed as a flexless shaft with a hanger. And I didn't look at the price of these. I suspect about $300. The next thing you'll need is some burrs, and here's a selection of burrs. And like I said, I'm not going to go completely through these. One of these days I will. I wouldn't recommend this type of burr. It's aggressive. It leaves a really nasty finish, but you'll see tons of these. These are diamond burrs that come from Amazon. They're cheap. You can get them by the dozen for $10. I use them as a secondary. Here's another set. They advertise them. They come from China. These are tungsten diamond, kind of like drill bits. If those of you know about drill bits, you go and pay for a high-dollar drill bit. Here's what I like to use. I use Kutzalls and saber-tooth burrs. So Kutzalls, I use these two primarily. One's a coarse and one's a medium. And then I use ruby bits. Versus those bits that I showed you in the kit, the $12 for 20, these are about 15 to 20 bucks a piece, and these are ruby sapphire bits, and I use those for sanding. And like I said, for more information, subscribe. 1/8 inch and 3/32. That's a 3/32 on my Elite high dollar hand piece, and I'm working on a hummingbird. So there's a ruby bit. It's a taper, and I will do another video on the different sizes of the burrs. There's a diamond ball. Working on a small bird. That's my older handpiece that we lost in the fire. The Elite, that was my favorite one. I used it for 20 years. And you can come up with something like this at the end. So there's a one over the world on power carving. Shoot me a question. If you have a question, I'll be happy to answer that. But to get into it, here's a one over the world 101, and subscribe, and comment. And I will put out a longer video on the burrs, and then at some point I will probably do a basic carving to show you. Hey, thanks a lot. This has been Ben with Studio on the Lake.